As Karine said, I think you know earlier this month, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan announced that the United States would rally the international community to address the increasing threat posed by Houthi attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. Yesterday, less than 2 weeks since Jake was right here at this podium, the Department of Defense announced Operation Prosperity Guardian and the formation of an international coalition of countries to counter these threats. Now, ships and aircraft from multiple nations are and will continue to join the United States in conducting maritime surveillance and taking defensive action as appropriate to protect commercial ships from the threat posed by the Houthis. This operation is an important new multinational security initiative under the umbrella of Combined Maritime Forces and the leadership of its Task Force 153. And 153 is focused on the Red Sea specifically. From the beginning, we've said that this is an international challenge that requires collective and international action. And we've been able to bring together now a number of partners, including the United Kingdom, Bahrain, Canada, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Seychelles, Spain, and even more, to address this challenge together. Also today, in a related fashion, the United States and the world's largest flag states for commercial vessels transiting the Red Sea also issued a joint statement condemning in the strongest terms the threats and the acts by the Houthis. This joint statement has 44 signatories, including NATO, the entire EU and G7, as well as Australia, Canada, Bahamas, Malta, New Zealand, Singapore, and Yemen. Secretary Austin also convened in the region a meeting with ministers, chiefs of defense, senior representatives from 43 countries, as well as the European Union and NATO to discuss what we're doing in response to this increased threat. Now, I think it's important to put it a little bit in perspective. Some 6 countries border the Red Sea. The Red Sea is a conduit for 10 to 15% of all global trade, 8% of global grain trade, and 12% of global seaborne oil trade. Of this total Red Sea trade, Greek, Chinese, Japanese, and German-owned vessels make up 40 to 50% of transits. All that underscores the dependence that these economies have around the world on the strategic trade. Bottom line is, these attacks have to stop. They need to stop. They're unacceptable. The United States, our allies and our partners, will do what we have to do to counter these threats and to protect these ships. And with that, we can take some questions.
Has the administration thought about redesignating the Houthis as a terrorist organization?
Yeah, we're actually conducting a review right now on whether that's the right course forward. We've talked about that. No decisions made right now.
And when do you expect a decision on that?
I don't have a timeline for you, but we are reviewing that designation as we speak.
And one more question. There's some unnamed countries that are currently involved in the Red Sea initiative. Can you say more about why the countries don't want to be named? And is it a sign that countries don't want to be seen standing with the United States at this moment, in the region?
There are some nations that have agreed to participate and to be a part of this, but they get to decide. They're sovereign nations. They get to decide how public they want that to be, and I'll leave it up to them to be able to describe it one way or another. Since because they not all want to become public, I doubt you're going to get much more out of them.
And the last thing, given the countries want to be unnamed while participating in this U.S. Initiative, and is the administration concerned about the United States' isolation on the international stage when it comes to the conflict in the Middle East, also given the Security Council vote that's coming up as well?
Well, I won't get ahead of this vote that's coming up here. We're still working through the modalities of that. But I mean, 44 signatories on this joint statement. Several nations now willing to join us publicly in this, and others that are willing to participate in this maritime coalition. It's hard to look at these things which the United States has driven forward, and say that we're somehow isolated on the world stage. In fact, I think what this shows is our convening power and how much American leadership matters on the world stage.
Thank you, Admiral. And Karine, we've seen attacks on commercial ships involving 1 or 2 drones in the Red Sea, but the USS Carney took down 14 at one time over the weekend. Do we have any sense of what the Houthis were targeting?
In the broad scope, Ed, as I mentioned in the opening statement, and the whole purpose of this Maritime Task Force is that they're targeting commercial shipping. Heck, they've even said publicly.
Usually it's 1 or 2. 14 at one time. Was that going to
They have largely focused their targeting on commercial ships, but, we haven't seen any specific targeting or intention to target naval vessels. But you can't, when a commanding officer is looking at something coming in, a drone or a missile, I mean, he or she has to make some oftentimes split-second decisions about perceiving what the threat is and taking them down. So you can't rule it out specifically. But when you're talking about these 14 drones, I mean, it's not unlike them to launch multiple at a time, and it's difficult to know when you're knocking them out of the air. It's difficult to know exactly what their intended target was in general. And this is why we set up this task force. It is clear that the Houthis are, at the very least, conducting a concerted effort to go after merchant shipping in the Red Sea.
So it wasn't.
Stay with the Times of India for news breaks, analysis, interviews and events. We bring you stories from your neighborhood and from across the globe as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the like button and press the bell icon so you don't miss any of our videos.